Hello, everyone. Welcome tonight. This is the third in a series of the open book stories of Art Nash's life, and this is Art's favorite movies, his artists, and presidents. And Art, tell me, tell me, what are your favorite movies?
Well,
Would you say?
Margie, first of all, I wanted to thank you for emceeing this show.
Well, thank you, Art.
Appreciate it. And I wanted to let you know, I've done two of these already. One on the love of my Star Tracker, the myth of the Star Tracker, my boat, and how I got my college degree from Indiana University, and I enjoyed both. But this is something that's so special to me because it touches the true that it goes to the depth of my true imagination. When you see a movie that has impact on you, it leaves an impression on you that not only you remember it, but it kind of begins to actually affect your life a little bit, with the theme of the movie. So that's why I
Oh,
picked
wow.
some special ones this time, and not only the movies, but the characters in the movies.
Oh,
So, what would you like to start with? The movies, the albums, artists, or presidents?
uh, the movies, Art. See, tell me, what are your favorite movies, and what do they mean to you? Mean?
Tell you what, this is interesting. Have you ever? Do you remember the Marlboro theme? Dun 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 dun
Dun,
dun dun.
dun,
Dun. Yeah, isn't that
dun,
the
dun,
goal? We
dun.
got
Yeah,
that.
yes,
That
yes.
was when everybody was smoking. Okay, and they were advertising it on TV. Dun 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 all the time.
Yeah, yes, I remember
Well,
that.
that was the theme to the first movie I loved so much, The Magnificent Seven. That was the theme.
Oh, wow. Yes,
Dun
I do
dun
remember that. I
dun.
remember that. I think that was in the 60s, right, Art? When
Yeah,
that
unfortunately,
came.
it shows you how old I am.
Yes, I know, I
Oh,
know.
yeah,
Gives your
you
age
would
away.
know that. So anyway, let's get back to the truth. And no, just that's funny. But this movie has been a classic for a couple of reasons. One, can you imagine a group of men, killers, basically bounty hunters, killers, marauders, all come together to go to a little Mexican village? And this is this interesting thing. These killers were led by a Hungarian bald-headed man who wore black. Now, how many cowboys have you ever seen who wear black or bald-headed from
uh,
Budapest, Hungary? Not many. Who was that man? Yul Brynner. Who
oh,
else?
Yul Brynner. Oh,
Of
okay, okay.
course.
Oh, yeah,
Died of cancer.
that's right. Yeah.
Died of cancer when he was singing dun
Dun,
dun
dun,
dun
dun,
dun
dun,
dun
dun,
dun dun.
dun,
Dun.
dun,
Have
dun.
some cigarette.
Yeah.
Anyway, he led him, and he did a great job. Steve McQueen was his sidekick. We all love Steve
Oh,
McQueen.
yes. Love Steve McQueen.
And a cast of iconic
Yeah.
characters. Charles Bronson was in it, who did many movies after that, as you know, and just great actors. So here was the theme: they are all they're being amassed. And the reason it is the bald-headed guy from Hungary or Czechoslovakia, Yul Brynner, we loved
Oh,
him,
yes. Yul Brynner. Yes.
went around and recruited his old friends who were murderers, bounty hunters, the low of the low, and he went around and he'd ask them this: "I have a job for you." Well, these guys were used to making $1,000 to kill somebody, sometimes more than that. He offered them $20,
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah, you told me
and
this
they
little
all
story.
laughed at him and said, "Chris, $20 wouldn't buy my bullets." And Chris said, "Well, so what's it for?" "Well, it's a little Mexican village. These poor helpless people who can't defend themselves are being harassed by Mexican marauders who come through their village, steal all their food, tell them if they don't continue to give them everything they have, they'll come back and kill them." And they've come
Mm.
to me and said they want to be free. And they're asking us to come to the village and dispose of these people. And it became the Magnificent Seven. And then Chris, the bald-headed guy from
Oh.
Yugoslavia,
Oh, huh?
who were all black, went around and finally found seven of his friends who were still alive to go with him to Mexico for $20.
Wow.
Now, what is the theme? The theme is this. These gentlemen, and I do say that, and we're doing okay? These gentlemen simply, they wanted to do one thing in their life before they died that was decent.
Oh, that's neat.
So they go to this village, and they bond with the villagers, and the villagers love them. And all of a sudden, they've gone from being killers to being loved by these people and feel the warmth of humanity. And then when the marauders come, of course, they disposed of
Wow.
them.
Uh-huh.
Most of the 7 were killed in the village, but the theme ended by saying at least they were buried in a cemetery where they would be loved and
Oh,
flowers
that's
put on their
good.
graves every day by the villagers.
Oh,
They had a
that's
home.
nice.
They had a home.
Flowers put on their graves.
And that was the theme of the Magnificent Seven.
Wow.
Pretty good?
Yeah, very good, very
Yeah.
good. Thank you for that, Art.
So that was that one. What else you got?
Um, what about Nevada Smith? That was one of your favorites too.
Really one of my favorites. Most people don't know about this, but
Expand
let me
on
tell
that.
you quickly about it. This is my favorite because it's a Steve McQueen. We all knew him. He was a great actor. Remember Steve McQueen?
Oh yes. Oh, I loved him.
Steve
Loved
McQueen was half Indian and half white. 3 filthy, dirty serial murders killed his parents. And he wanted revenge. But he was a kid, 16 or 17 at the time.
In Nevada Smith?
In Nevada
Oh,
Smith.
wow, wow.
So that's the moral of this story was
Yeah,
simple. That he was a young man, and he takes off. He doesn't know how to use a pistol. He can't shoot. He was just growing corn and cultivating stuff. Gets on a horse. His parents are brutally murdered, and he doesn't even know where these people are or who they are, and he's got to find them and kill them. And this journey that he went in this movie to find each one, first one, ended up being in a Louisiana federal prison in the swamps. And the way he got into the federal prison into the swamps, he robbed a bank in Louisiana, where he knew they would send him to that prison in the colony.
Oh, what a strategy there.
He gets there, befriends the man who killed him, and the man who killed his parents. But that man who killed his parents doesn't know that Steve McQueen was the parents of him because he wasn't there when they killed his parents.
Right, right.
So he befriends him. And he goes through a whole series, kills him, escapes on a canoe through the Everglades and gets out. And goes on to the next guy who he finds who's in a town dealing cards. And he kills him.
It's interesting. This is interesting.
Yeah, it is. And then the third one, the worst of the lot, who did terrible things to his mother, he finds him, and this guy had marauded 15 men to rob a bank, stagecoach, all these things, and he wanted to join them. So the way he did is he said he was looking for this man, and they put him in jail. And they broke him out when they found out that, they said, well, what do you want with our boss? I thought you knew him. He said, no, I just heard his name. So they tried to kill him, but a priest saved him. And then he gets to the bad guy, gets in with him later on. At the very end, the worst of the 3, he killed 2, the worst of the 3. He finally gets him cornered, shoots him in the kneecap, shoots him in the arm, but won't kill him. He said,
Steve McQueen won't kill him.
Won't kill him. And the man's bleeding to death, and he's in a river, kind of hanging onto the bank,
Oh, sure. Right.
begging him to kill him.
Uh-huh.
And Steve McQueen said, you're not worth killing.
And that was the guy that killed his
Mother.
mother.
So that was that movie. I thought that was a good thing.
Very good, very good. Thanks for sharing that, the story of it.
Yes.
And then some other good ones you liked was, what do you remember about Private Ryan?
Well, you know, Private Ryan, let's be honest. Let's be honest about one thing. Tom Hanks.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, he's a very good actor.
How could we not like Mr. T.
Right.
Hanks? Now,
T.
when you really think about Saving Private Ryan, I happen to be a World War II buff. And you are too in some ways.
Yes.
We're doing a movie, by the way, that anybody who's listening will be doing a documentary on World War II
Yes.
leading up to the Iraq War. That'll include Margie's photography, and I'll be using some songs that I've written, but etc. And but Saving Private Ryan, who has ever seen the movie and not said this? The first 20 minutes of them coming onto the beach, if you've never seen it, you have to, is the
Um,
most
yes, I
unbelievable
have.
20 minutes in war
It's
history
very,
film.
very good. I really like that movie too.
And there's a great story I wanted to tell
Yeah,
about
sure,
Tom Hanks. And
sure.
they finally get on the beach after a horrifying entrance, and they get through the barriers, and they're trying to climb up the hill where the Germans are at the top. And the way he does it, he has men kind of jump out in front, and they shoot. And then while they're doing it, another guy runs around to the side and gets a position so he can
Good.
ambush him.
Oh wow.
And one time, Hanks jumps out. Now, he was the captain of the platoon, so he shouldn't be doing it, but he did. Put his life in danger, jumped back, and his best friend, Tom Sizemore, who played the sergeant, goes, "Don't ever do that again." And Hank says, "Why not?" He says, "What do you think your mother would say about that?" And he looks at Sizemore, his sergeant friend, goes, "I thought you were my mother." And that was a good line in the movie. So, what a movie Tom Hanks did in Saving Private Ryan.
Wow. Yeah. And tell me a summary about the Liar Liar. And
Well, let me just say this. There's only one comedian who's so funny and so unbelievably outrageous that we don't know if he's funny or not, and that's Jim Carrey.
oh yeah,
We don't know.
yeah.
We don't know who he is. One day we think he's funny, the next day we know for a fact he should be committed.
Hmm.
It's one or the other.
Right, right.
Well, Liar Liar, he's a lawyer.
I like to see all these movies. I mean, I've seen them. I saw them a long time ago. But
Right. Well, I never forget anything. So
oh,
there's
good.
like, I saw him yesterday, but there's a line in Liar Liar we've got to tell. He's defending a lady who's suing her husband and wants $10 million because he's got a lot of money and the support for the kids and all this. So they're going through the whole trial. And somehow Jim Carrey, in a dream,
Oh,
promises his son at his birthday party he'll never lie again. And the gods in the universe said, "You can never lie." So every time he tries to lie, he can't. He goes through Jim Carrey contortions, of course, hits his head on the wall, puts his head in the toilet, whatever he does, and then he has to tell the truth, which is horrible.
oh,
And there's the greatest scene in Liar Liar. He comes into the courtroom and he can't lie. And he doesn't really want to tell the truth. And the judge says, "Are you ready to proceed, Mr. So-and-so?" And Carrey goes, "No, Your Honor." And the judge says, "Really? Why not?" And Carrey does his contortions and all that. He goes, "Because I can't lie."
oh.
And the judge says, "Well, that's very commendable that you can't lie as a lawyer. I appreciate it. But you think you might go on with the case?" I just thought that was a good line in
Yeah.
the story. Great, funny story if you've never seen it.
No, no. Thank you for sharing that one too. And another one that Art Nash, he has several here that he likes.
Hmm.
Inglorious Bastards.
Well, this is an oddball movie, but there's a director in Hollywood now who does all the oddball movies that does very well, Quentin Tarantino. And Tarantino did Natural Born Killers, movies like that that are outrageous. He did, and great actors. Anyway, Inglourious Bastards was with Brad Pitt,
Oh,
and I
oh
happen to
yeah.
like Brad Pitt.
Yeah, I do too. I do too.
And this was Brad Pitt took like 10 guys into German territory. Their whole point was to kill Hitler. And Tarantino takes them through a journey to get to the point where they do kill Hitler and all of his henchmen. But the main thing about that movie was that Tarantino laid out was that
Oh.
they wanted to make the Germans so afraid of this group that they would talk about them. That, did you hear about the Inglorious Bastards? And the reason they were renowned is when they killed their German soldiers in battle,
Oh.
they scalped them. And that had never been
Hmm.
done in a world war, of course.
Hmm.
And it left that imprint that these guys are so bad that they'll scalp the German dead soldiers. And they do get Hitler, and by the way, Brad Pitt was sensational in it.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Just
Yeah, he's
sensational.
just he's
He's
very good.
sensational.
He is. He really is.
So that was that movie.
That was that one. And here's a good one. And I'm sure that a lot of us have seen this movie. This is another one of Art's favorites. Forrest Gump. Can you tell me something about Forrest Gump?
Well, again, let me remind everyone who hears this. I'm picking out the favorite movies I've seen in my life, which have been a lot. And think about it. Two of my favorite movies, Tom Hanks is in. I mean, how much better can it get? Uh, Forrest Gump, he got an Academy Award for it,
Oh
and
yeah.
he deserved it.
All right.
Got one for Philadelphia, but that's another story. But Forrest Gump, isn't that an amazing movie about a young man who they thought was mentally ill? He had he had a lisp, and this
Yeah.
ended up being a genius.
Sure. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it's very good.
But he went to Vietnam, fought in Vietnam. He became a shrimper, and this and that. And the whole moral of that story is this: that
Yeah.
he found joy. He had found, you know what? He had joy in him, so natural, with all the afflictions that he had to deal with in his life of being
Wow.
uh, dyslexic, slow,
Yes.
fast as genius, misunderstood. He never let it get him down, did he?
No, he did not. No, he
And you
didn't.
know who else was like that? Paul the Apostle. He was beaten and
Oh, that's
drugged,
right. That's right.
and he was joyful all the time. So I always feel like God's grace was bestowed upon Forrest Gump, that no matter where he went in Vietnam or here or there, chased by these people or that person, or his girlfriend left him, that that the grace of God always bestowed joy in his heart. And I thought that was a beautiful thought. But the main thing that happened, uh, Lieutenant Dan, who was played by Gary Sensei, I believe he's a great actor on TV, but he was the man who lost his legs in the movie. From a bomb attack in
Oh.
Vietnam. And he was always angry and always wanting to die. And Forrest Gump loved Lieutenant Dan.
Love Lieutenant Dan. Uh-huh.
Yeah, Lieutenant
Uh-huh.
Dan.
Lieutenant Dan.
And Lieutenant Dan thought he was going to die a miserable, horrible person. And Forrest Gump taught him the meaning of joy. And at the very end of the movie, when Forrest Gump was about to marry Jenny, his favorite girl from high school that
Oh.
she loved him, but she ran off with everybody but him. Finally came back to him. His mother died, and she ended up dying from cancer too. But Lieutenant Dan comes walking up to the wedding with springs on where his legs were, and an
Oh.
Oriental woman with a smile on his face and says, "Forrest Gump, I wanted to thank you for bringing joy, teaching me the meaning of true life that's joyful." And it touched my heart.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, wonderful.
That was
And wasn't there something else said about that? Something about a box of chocolates?
excuse me. His
Sure.
mother said that life is like a box of chocolates. I always said if there had been caramel in it, I would have understood that, but I don't get it. I didn't understand that.
Yeah, but he said that, didn't
No,
he?
she did.
Oh, his mother did?
Dying.
Oh, dying. Life is it's like a box
Sally
of
Fields
chocolates.
played his mother. She was in Smokey and the Bandit, so I don't want to go any further than that. That's the end of that.
And here's another one. Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
Well, you have to have a Clint Eastwood movie in your repertoire of
Oh,
favorites.
yes, he's very good.
I mean, Dirty Harry across the board. The man is one of the greatest directors, actors that have ever lived, and every movie
Sure
he
is.
ever made was good. I never saw a movie he made that wasn't good.
He's a director now, I think.
Of course, he's like 90.
Yeah, yeah.
He has to be. But
In his 80s, yeah.
Good, Bad, and the Ugly was the theme of all themes. He was the good. Lee Van Cleef was Angel Eyes. He was bad, and the ugly was played by the little Mexican guy that didn't know if he was coming or going. But that was the first spaghetti western that ever became an international hit in America. And Clint Eastwood directed it, was in it, and that was the beginning of his career. And from there, he went on and did at least 10 more spaghetti westerns, Josie Wales, all kinds of Civil War movies and things like
Clint
that.
Eastwood.
And he did more movies, Fistful of Dollars.
Wow.
All these movies were made in Italy, where it was cheap.
I see.
And all the American actors who were looking for work went over there with him to Italy and made these spaghetti westerns with him, and they were all huge hits. And then they came to America, became international famous stars of their own in America then. So he
Wonderful
went there
story.
to become famous, took his friends, they went there, then came back to America, and the rest is history, as they say.
Oh,
And but Good, Bad, and the Ugly, by the way, is probably one of the most well, it's an iconic movie that'll be around probably long after the planet's gone. So it's that famous.
oh, sure, sure, yeah. And the last movies that Art Nash likes, uh, Kiss of the Dragon.
You know, I can only tell you, I didn't know anything about Jet Li. He's from China, I gather, martial arts expert. But that movie, if you've never seen it, Bridget Fonda's in there with him. She's so beautiful at the time. But he comes to France. We're doing okay. He comes to France he's on business. He's a police officer. The French try to kill him. They set him up, and then don't ask me why, but they do. And the whole point is they couldn't kill the guy. I saw the scenes in that movie of his martial arts expertise. Kiss of the Dragon
Neat.
is beyond explanation. It's beyond it's beyond anybody I've ever seen do martial arts.
And who did this?
Jet Li.
Jet Li. Jet Li.
And at the end, you wondered what Kiss of the Dragon is. Well, at the end, when he finally gets the villain, the French commissioners tried to have him killed, and everybody, all of his friends, couldn't kill him. And then he finally corners the French commissioner, and they get it out, and he's going to kill him. He has a needle that he sticks in his neck,
Oh.
and in it, there's some potion called
Oh.
Kiss of the Dragon.
Oh.
And then from there, you get paralyzed, you convulse, and then explode, and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, sure.
So the whole premise was Jet Li. If you've never seen that movie,
No, I'd like to see him.
he's only about 5'5", about my size, and but he takes on huge people. Absolutely astounding work he did in this. You need to see the movie if you haven't. So that's that.
Oh, very good, very good. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Art. Now we will go on to the another category here, Art's some of his favorite music. Art, tell me, um, who are your favorite musicians and favorite pieces, and what are their favorite pieces?
Well, I always start with the Beatles. They influenced me going into music, becoming a drummer for 45 years. And by the way, as a drummer for 45 years, I managed to get in front of over 1 million people. It was an amazing journey, but I tribute Ringo Starr of the Beatles. I had to know what he was doing. I didn't even know what drums were. I started on pipe pans and pillows and basically coat hangers as drumsticks, and worked my way to play to 1 million people. And but Beatles '65 is one of my favorite albums. I don't care for the new stuff as much. I won't go into it, but that was when they were at their prime, when they were doing No Reply, just John Lennon at his best. I'm a loser. That
Oh
song.
yeah, I like that.
Oh,
Very, very
all
good.
that
Oh, that was
time
very, very
frame.
good. That time
Uh,
frame.
so yeah, Beatles '65. If you've never heard it, go back and check it out. It's got some of the most beautiful songs on it that they ever did. So I love that. Influenced me a great deal.
So he sounds like he really influenced you into playing the drums.
He did.
You saw him on TV or something.
You know, if anybody's seen Ringo Starr, and we all have, and by the way, I saw the Beatles live, so I'm one of the few people
Oh, wow.
alive today who saw them live. They could only play for 20 minutes. The whole place, they were ripping the place down. The audience, 50,000 people on a horse track trying to get over to them. They finally had to transform out by up in the air by helicopter before they got killed. But one thing I noticed about Ringo Starr that drove me to the drums,
Yes. Well,
you could always tell he was having fun. He always had a smile on his face when he was playing.
oh wow, I remember them when I was, didn't they come out in the United States? They came to the United States in 1964,
63,
5,
64.
Oh, yeah, and they were the first ones that were just the newest band, and they had hippies or they had long hair and people,
And their hair really wasn't that long at that
right,
time.
right,
To us, it was.
and
Their hair was
oh,
no longer in yours now.
they were just fabulous. They
They were
really were.
and Ringo Starr. Really, the whole point was he was the heart of the band. They all loved him, It was easygoing. He loved. He took the pressure of the fame and all. It didn't bother him. He just loved. He loved doing it. It just was natural for him. And when he played, I'd watch him and I'd go, "This guy's having the time of his life." Well, you know me. I want to have the time of my life too when I'm working.
Right, right. Yeah,
So
we all would like
drums
to.
ended up being my career for 45 years. You know, I did other things, but
Yes.
that was a big influence on me. That album.
We all like to do what do things that we really enjoy, but most of us do not get that opportunity. We have to do something that we don't really like to do.
And that's why you and I are doing what we're doing now, though.
That's right. That's right.
One
And
time
we
we
love it.
get a chance to do that.
Right, right.
There you
One
go.
time.
There you go.
Um, and tell me about the Beatles. Why? Weren't they together for about 5 years, Art?
Well, you know, the Beatles were together. They were together really about 10 years before they made it,
Oh, about
playing in
10 years.
Germany and all kinds of places. Now, Ringo Starr wasn't with them. He came along just when they got big. But let's just say they were together about 8 years.
And what do you think? Why do you think that they? Why are they different than any other band? What do you think?
It's we went through this conversation, and there's only one thing that differentiated them from any other band in the world. They loved each other.
That's rare. That's rare.
They truly loved each other. And that passion for each other, if you notice as they went through all their changes, they never stopped caring about each other. There's a
That's
great
right.
story
That's right.
about at the end of their career, about 1969 or 70,
Oh.
just about before they were about to do one of their last albums, Abbey Road, which is a big
Oh
album.
yes. Oh
Okay.
yeah. That was very good. Very good. In
It's a
70s.
great story. It explains what I'm saying. Ringo Starr had decided to quit the band before Abbey Road, and he told the story, and I heard it. First, he goes to John's house, John Lennon's house,
Uh huh.
knocks on the door. John answers the door. Well, it's Ringo. What are you doing here? I need to talk to you. Well, come on in. And he said, what's wrong? He said, John, I have to quit the band. No, John was devastated.
Yeah.
What?
Right.
Why would you quit the band? And Ringo, the way he would do it, I don't think you love me anymore. That's what he said.
Wow.
And John said, that's the last thing on in the world that is true. I love you more than life itself. So, if I could continue, John, then Ringo goes to Paul's house, knocks on the
Oh
door.
really?
Paul said, what are you doing here? Come in. Is there something wrong? Yeah. Well, what's wrong? I have to quit the band. Why is that? I don't think you love me anymore. Paul said, that's impossible. I adore you. You're my best friend. Ringo leaves, knocks on George Harrison's door.
Ringo the drummer.
Yeah, the drummer.
Uh,
George answers the door. Ringo, my dear friend, come in. What do you do? Why do you look sad? I'm quitting the band. Well, why are you quitting the band? I don't think you love me anymore. And then George says, that's it. That's crazy. I adore you. Then Ringo goes home and they all get back together, do Abbey Road and continue on.
oh really?
And that's a good story.
Oh.
They loved each other.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. That's a very, very good. Thank you for sharing that one, Art.
Does
And,
that explain it?
yes, that explained it very, very good, very
Good.
well.
Good.
Let's see here. Movies. Let's see.
Well, we know Bob
Yeah,
Dylan
yeah.
was important to me.
Oh, Bob Dylan. Okay, Bob Dylan.
You know, when you look at Dylan and all of his great albums, and he's one of the greatest. The story I'm going to tell you about that quickly. We'll
Sure.
get to the others.
Yeah.
Most great songwriters, starting with John Lennon of the Beatles, if they write one, what we call an iconic song
Uh-huh.
that isn't just popular, it has universal appeal to the concept of some important aspect of humanity that has to be addressed. You're lucky if you get one. Out of 1 million songwriters, maybe two get one iconic song out of 1 million.
Wow.
Dylan had five.
5 iconic songs.
Starting with Blowing in the Wind, as we all know,
Yeah,
Don't Think Twice, and I don't know the name, Mr. Tambourine Man.
oh yes, oh yes, yes.
And he had them all, so he had 5 iconic songs. The
Okay.
greatest of the great had maybe 1 or 2.
Wow.
So that's
I didn't know
separate.
that. Yeah.
I liked his early albums. Freewheelin' had Him on just his guitar and harmonica singing. He was young, and that was my favorite. It's Freewheeling Early. So I'll
Oh,
just say that.
okay. And here's another one. Bach's greatest hits.
Well, I can only tell you this. I didn't listen to much classical music until, as you know, and hopefully we'll address this with everybody, get a chance to bring this into everybody's life.
Sure.
I had a dream one night in about 86, and I am the kind of person in my dreams that I express myself in my dreams when I have a need,
Wow.
and my need was desperate, and the need was this: I had been annoying God to a point where it was simple. I said, I have to have something to do that's creative. And I don't like anything I'm doing. And I won't leave you alone, Father Jehovah, until you give me something to do. Well, finally, God Himself got tired of listening to me annoy Him. And He says, come here in my
Gave you a
dream. I'm in
challenge.
my dream. He says, I want you to meet a friend of mine. I said, who's that, Father? As I call God. Johann Sebastian Bach. He's the father of classical music. I want you two to do something together. And what did we end up doing, Margie?
Bach and roll.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then all you can say out there for anybody who's listening, Margie someday will show you how to get to the CD that I did with Bach, Johann Sebastian Bach, the father of classical music, called Bach and Roll. And that's why I love
And
it.
you'll hear about that too. And I'll put on Art's Facebook page. I'll put uh, some information about Bach himself.
Okay. Let's go on to the presidents.
Yes. The presidents. Who are your favorite presidents and why,
I
Art?
bet you probably wonder. We've talked about movies, we've talked about artists. Why would I talk about presidents? Because for me, I'm going to be honest. I am an artist and I am a man who loves morals and themes and movies. They affect my life. But I'll tell you what, there are some presidents in our country that I truly stood out as human beings because it's the hardest job in the world to have, first of all,
Sure is.
period.
I wouldn't want
Yeah, I mean, very few do.
it.
But the man I'm going to mention quickly, and I'll tell you what, let me just go down kind of a
Sure.
quick list because I know we're running out of time here.
Yes.
How much time do we have left?
About 5 minutes.
We won't take but two or three. Let me just say this. Let's go down the list. You name the president. I'll give
Okay.
you my meaning.
Uh, John Kennedy.
All right, John Kennedy. Make it simple. First of all, he was a young man. He was in his early 40s when he became president. And I'm going to say this. Yes, he did avoid the Cuban crisis. He did break civil rights into this country and make it equal for all creeds and races to be able to attend colleges and universities and this and that and this and that. But you know what? It really made John Kennedy the man of all time to
No.
me. He was a World War II hero. Now, this kid came from a family equivalent to billionaires today. How many billionaires' kids are in the war? Zero.
I'm not sure. Okay.
Zero.
Oh,
How's
zero.
that?
Oh, wow.
John Kennedy was a second lieutenant PT boat commander.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you said
His
that.
boat was run over by a Japanese destroyer going through the straits at night at 40 miles an hour with 800 soldiers on board because they had no air cover, and if they didn't get through to their island before morning, our planes would destroy them. John
Mm.
Kennedy was in his PT boat in the straits cruising, and all of a sudden a cruiser comes by 40 miles an hour, runs over him, and cuts his boat in half. And in the dark, he himself gets all his men. One had a broken back, couple were burned seriously, got everybody to the shore of the island. They were there 2 weeks. They weren't getting any help. John, then a great swimmer in college, swam out into the
Wow.
ocean and was going to swim to the next island to get help. They saw him that night. He had a lantern, so he'd have some light. The currents were taking him back and forth, back and forth. He wasn't going anywhere,
Boy, that's a
and he was still
challenge.
swimming. And then they saw him go under the water. They thought he was dead. According to John, he went down about 40 feet, and for the grace of God, he threw him back up.
Wow.
Somehow he managed to keep swimming and got to the island, got the natives to help him get to his military base and get help and go back and rescue his men. And that to me made the quality and the character of John Kennedy to me everlasting.
It's amazing. That's great.
It's a great story.
Thank you for that story. And what could you tell me about Ronald Reagan?
Let's be honest, which would be different in politics today, being honest. But anyway, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan. Look, Ronald Reagan was a good actor, but he was kind of what they call a B actor. He wasn't like a major
Oh,
A
that's right. Yeah,
actor.
he was an actor.
He was a B actor. So here is a man running for president as an actor. Well, I didn't like that to begin with at all. And a B actor made me even more suspicious of who is this guy.
Who is this
But the
guy?
tenacity of Ronald Reagan needs to be defined here. And one couple respects. One, he ran for the nomination at his party 3 times. He wouldn't go away, and he got it on the third time.
Wow.
Ran for 3, defeated, came back, defeated. You couldn't stop him.
So how long was he president? Or
He was
eight,
president for 8 years.
eight
He was
years?
the oldest man to ever become president. Became in his first term, his first year, he was 78 years old.
Really?
Oldest man to ever be president.
Oh, really?
And
It's good facts. Good facts there.
and he brought our country was in a major depression. Interest rates on homes were 18 to 23%. Nobody was working. The military was defunct. He brought spirit. He built our military up. We became a national and international recognized country again. And of course, you know as well as I do the old term that he uses that I use in my life every day, folks, and you
What did he
should
say?
too.
Yeah.
The glass is half full. Which way do you see it? Half full or half empty? And he said, I see it half full. And it has changed my life.
Oh, great, great, Art. Thank you for sharing that one there.
I loved him.
I did too. I like Ron Reagan.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Uh,
sir.
what about Franklin Delano
Well,
Roosevelt?
he's a very controversial character. So let's start here. Delano Roosevelt came from a very wealthy family. He himself was a billionaire. So we know how billionaires are today. Do they really care about the common man? No.
No.
Okay. All right. Here's a president who took over. First of all, he's the only president on ever in America to serve 4 terms.
Oh, sir, four
Only one.
terms. 4 terms.
Yeah, I'll tell that quick story.
Yeah.
He became president just as the Great Depression had taken hold. So what did he do first? He got everybody together, and the infrastructure that we have today in our internet systems, and our grid systems across the country,
Uh-huh.
etc., our roads, our bridges, our canals, everything he built that now we use today even to put people back to work during the Great Depression and build the infrastructure. That was one thing he did. That was smart. We're living with how smart he is now. We can't replace it now. It's too expensive, so we're going to have to deal with the consequence. 2, he started Social Security. Now, you and I have discussed the pros and cons of that, but
Right.
there are 55 million people on Social Security today. Where would we
Called
be? Where
entitlements.
would 55 million people be without that income that comes in from the program that made them save the money, dot, 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 dot. So he did that. Third thing is he did something, and I don't know the depth of it, he called a GI Bill. He said when the soldiers came back from war, he didn't want them on the streets selling apples. So the GI Bill allowed them to go to college free,
Oh, yeah.
get medical care free, whatever, skilled training free, and he worked to do that for the soldiers. And I thought that was admirable. And the fourth thing that's admirable is that really, no leader on the planet Earth has ever won a major world war fighting a war on 2 fronts. It's impossible. Hitler tried to do it fighting England and Russia on 2 fronts. He lost. We were fighting Japan in the Pacific, Hitler in the Atlantic, in Europe, with our allies, and he did it. So here's now 2 thoughts about FDR. 2 terms is what you get. That's the maximum you can get.
And that's 4 years, and then another 4 years.
Correct.
So a total of 8.
He finished his 8 years. The nation said, "No, you must serve again.
A
We
third.
don't care." Yeah, we don't care. They made him. He gets done with his 3rd term. Now, don't forget, he's had polio the whole time. He can't even stand up. I mean, he does.
Gee.
This man's been suffering horribly, doing everything I'm telling you. And he wants to retire, and they said, you must serve a 4th term. And, of course, during his 4th term, the war ended, and he died before the term ended, and Harry Truman took over.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and okay. Yeah, but yeah. Tell me about Truman. Truman.
Truman is a great man. we had to invade Japan. It was near the end of the war. Roosevelt died. The war was not officially over. Japan was would not surrender, and the atomic bomb was being created. And the military brass wanted to invade Japan with 1 million of our soldiers, which would have we would have lost probably half of them taking the country. So my father was going to be one sent there, and I asked
Hmm.
him how he felt about it, and he said, "Thank goodness for the atomic bomb." So here's one thing Truman did. It's fascinating. When the bomb was ready to go, of course they didn't know if it would work, but it was
Oh
ready.
wow.
And the brass said, no, no atomic bomb. We're going to invade and take over. When they left the room, he quietly closed the door and called the guys and said, forget what they're saying. Drop the bomb. He went
Oh
against
wow.
everybody because he knew why lose 500,000 of our boys when maybe the bomb would take care of it. And as you know, we had to drop 2 bombs, but it took care of it.
Oh okay.
And I love Truman for that.
Oh good. Very good. Very good. Uh, and one last one. Lincoln. President
Here's
Lincoln.
a controversial man. Here's a man who ran for office over a 30-year period and lost every time until he ran for president. No, another tenacious man. Now, remember this. A couple of things, and I can't really express too much other than, he died a terrible death by assassination. Here's a man who came into office believing in slavery. He was a Northerner. He was man enough during his term to realize he'd made a mistake. That it's not right. That I can't really condone slavery. We have to stop this. So he called in his #1 Union general to go to Virginia and make it right and free the slaves. And who was that general? General Robert E.
E.
Lee.
Lee. Oh okay. Yeah.
And
I
Robert
remember
Lee,
him.
they were best friends, as close as brothers. Said Robert Lee said, "Sir, I'm from Virginia. I cannot go to my home state and kill my own people." And Lincoln said, "But I'm the President of the United States. You have to do what I tell you."
Hmm.
Lee walked out the door, went
Lee
to
walked in.
Virginia,
Uh-huh.
walked into the assembly, took his blue coat off, put a gray one on, and the war started. And Lincoln had to deal with that. Lincoln had to deal with then slavery. Lincoln had to deal with bringing the nation back together after the war was done. And probably things I can't recall, as well as one thing I wanted to share about him, one of the greatest storytellers of all time. No matter how bad the circumstances were,
Hmm.
he'd always tell a good story. So even though he's controversial, first of all, let's say this: he died a terrible death. A pellet, one of those single, just a musket,
Yeah.
shot in the head. He lived for 8 hours. He was not a perfect man, but he was involved in a political mess that if he hadn't done it, our country might be separated at this moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm reading a book now about the Lincoln Unmasked, the true story about Lincoln, and uh, I think the Illuminati took him out. Where did he die? Where was the place that he died? Uh,
Uh, Ford Theater,
yeah, the Ford Theater. I think it was an inside job. It was Illuminati had taken him out, but
probably.
uh,
Well, he wasn't going along with what they wanted.
right.
You know what? He found out he had a conscience.
So much cover up in
He had
in
cover.
our government.
So he had a tough road. I don't even think he got a chance to finish his first term. I don't know. I can't quite. It was still confusing. So much happened. But I'm telling you, more people died in the Civil War than World War II
Oh,
in
really?
terms of our people.
Well, I can't wait to, I'm excited to get into the book and read about it. It's
Yeah,
called Lincoln Unmasked,
yeah.
the truth about Lincoln. And everyone, I want to thank you for listening. This, the third open book series
Thank you.
of Art Nash. And all this information, or this interview will be on, I'm going to put it on Art's Facebook page. And that's www.facebook.com art.nash16. And again, thank you for listening tonight, and Have a good night.
Good night.
Hello there. I'm at the corner
Hello
of
everyone.
Trade and
Welcome
Tryon, and
tonight.
it's
This is the
Friday
third in
night
a
about
series of the open
7:30.
bookstores
And
of Art
I was
Nash
driving
Live.
by this, and I
This
said,
is
"Oh, I've
this is
got to
Art's
stop and
favorite movies,
come back over
his
here and take
artists
some
and
pictures,
presents.
as well as take a video of this beautiful waterfall."
And Art,
Like I say again, it's at the
tell
corner of
me,
Trade and
what are
Tryon.
your favorite movies?
Oh, it's so
Lady
beautiful.
Margie, first of all, I want to thank
Love
you
to always
for
just
emceeing
capture the
this show.
moment.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And this is, I wanted to let
Just
you know,
listen
I've
to
done
it.
two of these already. One on
Just saw a
the
bird
love of
fly
my
by
Star
too.
Tracker, the myth of the Star Tracker in the boat, and how I got my college degrees and my university, and I enjoyed both. But this is something that's so special to me because
That's
it
beautiful.
touches the true,
Water
it
calms
goes
me
to the
down. I
depth
just
of
love it.
true imagination. When you see a movie that has impact on you, it leaves an impression on you, but not only don't you remember it,
Look at
but
that
it kind
bird
of
there.
begins to actually affect your life a little bit, the theme of the movie. So that's why I picked some special ones involving not only the movies, but the characters in the movies. So what would you like to start with? The movies, the albums, the artists, or presidents?
The movies, Art. Tell me, what are your favorite movies, and what do they mean to you?
Tell you what, this is
There they
interesting.
go.
Do you remember the Marlboro thing? Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, isn't that the goal? You got that?
Yes.
That was when everybody was smoking. Okay. And they were advertising on TV. Dun,
That's
dun,
beautiful.
dun, dun, all the
Yeah,
time.
yes, I remember.
Well, that was the theme of the first movie I loved.